I don't know what I was doing wrong. I felt like I was doing all the right things. Smiling at people, being friendly to classmates, joining new sports, trying new things, but I just couldn't make any friends. I spent an obscene amount of time trying to learn how to win friends and influence people, and how to have charisma on command, but I could never retain any friendships. I feel like if you're anything like me, you probably learned how to be really good at having conversations. You're a great conversationalist. You know how to have small talk with people, talk about the weather, talk about the most random of things, but you never have anything to show for it because you don't have any long-term friends, or maybe not as many as you'd like to. I spent so much time in my teenage years and even early 20s asking myself, why do I always ask people about themselves, but then they never ask about me? Is it because I'm doing something wrong? Is it because I'm asking too many questions? Am I too intense? Am I not intense enough? Is it this? Is it that? You just spend so much time in your own head. But because I have too much time on my hands, I've made a list for probably every single reason why you ask people about themselves, but they never ask about you.
Yes, I did that.
Because I got the fish shoes, blue. Yes,
And you would do it too for a check.
Starting off, if you're watching this, chances are you're probably really good at listening. I know when I was trying to make friends and I just felt super, super lonely, and I was like, okay, I'm going to tackle this loneliness. I need to go out there, put myself out there and make some friends. And I read all the books out there. I read all the podcasts. I listened to all the podcasts, watched all the YouTube videos on Charisma on Command. Honestly, he has such a good channel, to be fair. And honestly, I think I accidentally fell into the trap of being too good at listening. I would naturally just fall into the habit of, I'm going to ask a question and I'm just going to sit back for 4 or 5 minutes and just listen to you waffle. And as amazing as that is to try and develop a friendship from that sort of standpoint where you just kind of sit and receive and they're the one that's doing all the talking, I actually don't think that's how you can build a long-term connection where two people are interested in each other. You might be really interested in them because you're so good at listening, but if you don't develop the skill of knowing how to talk and knowing how to be comfortable having a lot to say, you have to be just as comfortable talking for 4 or 5 minutes as you are listening for 4 or 5 minutes if you want to make those friends. Another reason why you ask people about themselves but they never ask about you is probably because you're desperate for a bit of empathy. I was scrolling through a subreddit, I can't remember which one it was, but this question came up a lot of why do I ask people about them but they never ask about me. And honestly, I feel like the people that struggle with this the most honestly just don't get much empathy from people. They don't get much interest, understanding, feeling like people care about them. And I feel like you're the sort of person that asks this question, I'm interested in everyone else and I care about other people but they never seem to care about me. And it's probably because you just need some empathy. You're not around the right people that are kind of giving you that attention. And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, because I've made this mistake as well, it's because you aren't willing and comfortable to talk yet. You're not in that comfort zone of what I have to say is worth listening to. I'm comfortable to talk and have you listen to me. And a lot of the time that's just a confidence thing. If you aren't at that stage in confidence yet where you believe what you have to say is interesting, you believe what you have to say is funny, you believe what you have to say is kind of cool and worthwhile, 4 or 5 people listening, you're not going to speak up yet. But once you do, it's a game changer. If you clicked on this video, chances are you are probably an expert at small talk. That can get you a very long way in the whole acquaintance, friendship, building connections world. Being an expert at small talk is great because it means that you kind of got a foot in the door when it comes to having deeper conversations and kind of learning a lot more about someone. Being an expert at small talk is great because it means you can talk to anyone. I literally find myself in the most random situations. I'm in the queue at a coffee shop and I strike up a conversation with someone, or I'm on my way to placement and I'm in this massive queue to get to the toilets because I need a wee before I go on to placement, and I'm talking to the woman in front of me. I just find myself talking to all sorts of people because I'm just so good at small talk. I can talk about anything. And to get from small talk to more deep talk, honestly, be comfortable with what you have to say. What you have to say is just as important as what they have to say. I know you love listening and it's probably in your comfort zone just to listen. Equally, something else that needs to be in your comfort zone is just feeling comfortable talking and having other people listen to you. And if you're anything like me, this was probably really nerve-wracking and it would just make me want to be sick, the thought of people listening to me and critiquing what I'm saying, analysing the words I'm using, my choice of words, if I mess up and stumble. It's really scary to think someone else is going to listen to you and cling on to your words. But you need to have that. If you want to have those friendships. Sometimes I think people who fall into this criteria kind of have a habit of having hiding be your comfort zone. If drifting into the shadows, falling into the background, hiding in the back, I think if that's your comfort zone, you're naturally going to always be why do people never ask about me? Why do people never ask me how I feel, how my day's gone? Why do people never ask me my opinion? But it's because you're just so comfortable in the shadows. If you want people to ask about you, you need to come out of the dark and into the light a little bit more. I had this back in the day when I'd be in a group conversation of a few people, maybe like 5 people are all talking, they're all sharing their opinions, and I would notice like, oh my god, I've gone really quiet. Like they're gonna notice that I've not said anything in like 3 minutes. They're gonna notice like, why is she so quiet? Why hasn't she spoke up? And I would just be like analysing like the group situation and my position in that group, and I'd be like, I'm not speaking up enough. I'd put pressure on myself to speak up. I mean, that's totally normal. It's totally normal that someone's gonna drift into the back every now and then, and you're gonna come back. It's totally fine. And honestly, when I think back to the pressure I put on myself, it's just insane. But you shouldn't only feel obliged to speak up if what you have to say is interesting or if what you have to say is important. Like, don't put a criteria on what you have to say. Like, just speak for the sake of it. Like, you're deserving to say your opinion just like everyone else is. Like, I used to think I'm not going to put my hand up unless I like know the right answer. Like, unless it's 100% right, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to ask any silly questions. Like, but all of that is like, you're putting criteria on what you have to say, and like what you have to say is never good enough. It has to be interesting. It has to be funny. It has to be correct. But like, you don't need any of that. That's the sort of thing that keeps you quiet and hiding in the shadows. Like, or similarly, in a group situation, you never speak up unless you try to say something interesting, but it's probably actually like a bit weird because you've overthought it in your head so much. You've sat and pondered on it for way too long, and you've stressed yourself out, and by the time you do say it, it doesn't quite land the way you thought it would. Stop putting pressure on yourself to say the right thing all the time. Like, literally, you are good enough as it is. You don't need to fulfill a certain criteria in your mind to speak up. And once you do that, then it's a game changer. Then you'll actually start to feel like people care about what I have to say. Like, because what I find as well, people don't really care if you're interesting, funny, correct. People care more that you're yourself. Like, all the people that you do like in your life, like if you literally had to think about some of your closest friends or people that you follow online even that are interesting and you think that they're cool, you don't like them because they're saying all the correct things. It's just like I'm confident it's more so a situation where you just like the fact that they're like being themselves, and along the way on being themselves, maybe they say something funny along the way, or maybe they say like a really good perspective that you didn't have. And chances are, on your journey of coming out of your shell more, you'll just become more and more comfortable with saying the wrong thing, or saying something that's pretty boring, saying something that's like basic and like not like different and cool. And the more you get comfortable with that, the more you can actually be yourself, and then start to make the friends that you really want to make. A really common problem that people that are lonely have is that we have high expectations. When I was at my loneliest, I think it was probably first year of med school, first year of college, I was super lonely because I just put so much pressure on myself to make like friends that are super like healthy and super active and vegetarian. And it sounds ridiculous when I say it now, but like I just wanted friends that have like all the same interests, and friends that are like super into medicine and super passionate about what they study. And I want to make friends that are not really into going out and getting drunk and doing drugs. Like, I just put so much pressure to like be a certain way and like make friends that were a certain way, and I have to be like this if I want to make friends that are like that. Like, just so much criteria, so much pressure. Like, honestly, if you take nothing away from this video, it's just that I started to make the friends that I wanted to make and have people ask about me when I ask about them. That all happened when actually you just put less pressure on yourself. It's a mutual friendship where there's equal care on both sides. Sometimes friendships can be very one-sided. Trust me, I've been there. And I think sometimes that happens when you overinvest in them. Like, if you're spending way too much time asking about them, like their interests, how they feel, how their week's been, you never develop the confidence to speak up for yourself and have your voice heard, because then it's like they're receiving all the benefits from the friendship and then you're receiving none of them. You've not benefited in any way because they don't care as much. And it's because you've not really given them the space to care about you because you don't speak up much. And not only that as well, I think sometimes lonely people who are just so kind and loving to other people, you might accidentally attract people that are actually quite manipulative and quite harsh, because they can sense the fact that, okay, she's so kind, she's so lovely, she's always asking me about how I am, she's always giving me like the time of day, and she never really asked me to give that back to her, so this is perfect, I'm gonna go manipulate now. Like, so if anything, it's kind of in your best interest to actually speak up and share your opinion, and maybe stumble over your words, mess up, do all the things that you're scared to do, come across as boring, come across as not funny, come across as saying something weird, and then see how they react, because then that'll show you whether or not they are a genuine friend that you want to have. The more insecure you are, I feel like the more likely you are to struggle when making friends. I don't know when I clocked this, but honestly, throughout school, from literally the ages of 13 to 18, maybe even 19, I was so insecure, like for so many different reasons. Appearance, like just the fact that I didn't know how to talk in conversations. I literally would struggle so much even just to come up with things to say. Like, people would say things, ask questions, crack jokes, and I'd be like, I just don't know what to say. Like, I literally would not even have an idea of how to formulate my own opinion. I was so lost in my identity. Like, I didn't really know who I was and what I stood for, that I was so confused. I was so frazzled. Like, any group setting I would just dread so much, because I was like, how am I even going to navigate this? I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. So I feel like the more insecure you are, the more you're in your head asking yourself a million questions, telling yourself to do things and say things, and you're putting pressure on yourself to be a certain way and be more. You're not happy with how you are just as is on the surface. You're not happy with how you are just on a calm level. Like, you on a chill day, you're forcing yourself to like be more of something. I feel like the more of that you have, the trickier it is gonna be to make friends. The friends that I've made in the last few years, which honestly have been some of my most best friendships, like mutual friendship where we're both on the same page, it just happens naturally. It happens without you thinking. Not only that, I also think it's like a slow and steady process. It's not like you meet up with someone and click straight away. It's not that spark that you hear about. It's honestly like you meet up one time and things go well, she was super nice, I'm gonna go for a coffee with her again. And then you go again and it's like you bond more, and then you share things about each other and you learn about them. They ask about you, which I'm gonna get onto more in this video. And it's just like it builds over time, and then you find yourself like a year down the line, 2 years down the line, and you're like, oh my god, we get along so well. And it's just because of that slow burn process. One of the best things that you can do, I've realised in my own journey, to make more friends and kind of step out of your comfort zone, is to just work on your insecurities and confidence a little bit more. Because if your confidence picks up and you feel comfortable saying hi to a stranger, you feel comfortable kind of opening up and sharing something a bit more personal to someone that you've just met, if you work on your confidence and being able to speak more openly about yourself, then honestly that will work wonders for your friendship and like conversations with people, where once you feel comfortable opening up about yourself, people will actually be more interested in you, and they're like, oh my god, she's so interesting, I didn't know that happened when she was a child, like, or oh my god, we went through a similar experience when we were younger. Like, that makes me feel a lot more connected to you. And it's just like, once you feel more comfortable opening up and sharing things about you, people will naturally be interested to know more about you. Like, honestly, it's a game changer once you do crack that. Something to remember is that polarization is memorable and being agreeable is forgettable. If you're the sort of person that's super polite and you love to just like be really diplomatic, really friendly, really like politically correct, never say anything polarizing, never like want to offend someone, you're going to be the sort of person that in a conversation you're very forgettable, because you've not said anything that's polarizing. In your vocab, start to incorporate things like, I never do this, or I cannot stand, you will never see me do blah 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 blah, I am obsessed with, I love, I will never stop doing blah. Like, you need to have more like polarizing like opinions. Like, I think opinions are really, really attractive when it comes to making friends and being interested in someone, because once they've stated an opinion, maybe it's polarizing, maybe it's not, but then you have a reason to find out more. Like, you agree with that opinion, you don't agree with that opinion, either way you want to kind of connect more, because there's just something to cling on to. The exact reason why someone might have a bunch of great friendships and have a thriving social life, and someone else might have a terrible social life, they've got no friends and they feel really lonely, is the exact same reason. It's because someone is really comfortable sharing their opinion and being open and being comfortable with being wrong or disagreed with, and then someone else is really uncomfortable with being disagreed with and is terrified of sharing their opinions. Honestly, don't be afraid to share your opinion. It's a win-win either way. A classic example of this is literally like last week. I watched my first ever musical the other week in the theatre, and honestly, ever since I've been obsessed with musicals. I've only ever watched one, but I was telling this girl, like, I'm obsessed with musicals. I've only ever watched one, but literally I'm going to watch so many more over the next few weeks. And she was like, oh my god, I love musicals. You need to see Hamilton, you need to see Les Mis. Like, we bonded instantly just over the fact that, yes, I'm obsessed with musicals and I've only watched one, but it was such a strong opinion that we instantly clicked over it and had so much to talk about. Whereas me a few years ago, I would have been really like scared to admit that, because it makes no sense. How can you be obsessed with musicals and you've only watched one? Like, you've not got enough of an opinion yet. Like, you don't know enough about musicals, Christina. Like, don't be ridiculous. But actually, the more ridiculous your opinion, honestly, I think the better, because the people that do click with what you've just said will actually be even more inclined and like happy to talk to you about it. Another thing I feel like we need to stop doing is stop seeing social interactions as a win-lose situation. For example, me back in the day, if I went up to a group of girls and I said hi and they ignored me, or like they didn't really like want me to join the conversation and they looked at me in a weird way, I'd see that as like, oh, that failed, or I lost out, I did something wrong. I'm seeing it as like, there's an ideal outcome, winning and having them talk to me and find out more and maybe exchange like numbers, social media, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I connect with them. And then there's the lose situation where it's like they kind of don't want me to be there. Like, you need to stop seeing it as a win-lose situation, and rather it's just a neutral. Like, win-lose, there is no win-lose. Like, it's just a social interaction. Now when I'm meeting new people, honestly, with my job / placements, I'm a medical student, so on the wards, I'm literally seeing new people every single day. I'm speaking to new nurses, new doctors, new patients, new healthcare assistants, new cleaners. I'm speaking to new people all the time. I never see anything as a win-lose. Yesterday, I was literally at a coffee shop and I got a coffee, and it's my favourite coffee shop. I had like a gift card, and I was like, I just asked for my tea. And I was like, I guess I was in a good mood. Maybe she could sense that. I tried to scan the gift card on the scanning thing, and she was like, no, it's not time to scan it yet. I'll tell you when to scan. And she was just being like a bit aggressive and just not in a very good mood. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. It was a busy day and it was lunchtime, so probably super busy, but I didn't see that as a lose situation just because she wasn't nice. Like, I don't see a good situation when I bonded over the musicals as good. I don't see that situation where someone was horrible to me as a bad. Just take it and leave it. Like, have no expectations for any time you meet someone. Stop putting pressure on each time you meet up with someone for it to be a success, because once you take the pressure off, honestly, it starts to work out. And the last reason why I think you always ask people about themselves and they never ask about you is because you need to make friends with silence. If you're having a convo with someone and you're not falling into the trap of seeing it as a win-lose, you're opening up about yourself, you're sharing more personal things, you're being polarizing, you're sharing opinions, things are going good, and there's suddenly a silence in the conversation. Like, no one said anything for a hot 2-3 seconds. Honestly, just get comfortable with that. Like, I find a lot of my good conversations where me and someone are really like clicking. Like the other day with them, like talking about the musicals with my, I think with friends now, I'm going to call her my friend. When me and my friend were talking about the musicals, honestly, like there was a couple of just silences, and I'm not even going to call them awkward because they weren't. I think silences are good because it shows that you're both comfortable. Like if I'm talking to someone, one of my other friends who, he is also quite anxious, and I know that we're both very similar, but I sometimes find that there's never silences in the conversation, and sometimes I think it's because he's not as comfortable as I am with the silence. And I think sometimes with my other friends, when there's silences and we're clicking, but there's just like sometimes silences just show that you're comfortable. Again, you don't need to put pressure on yourself to fill the silence and think of something to say. Like, let the silence be there. Honestly, I think it's a sign of confidence. It's so sad, but I'm honestly convinced that some of the loneliest people are some of the nicest people. Like the sorts of people that watch my videos, like some of you guys that are super smart, and some of you guys have such cool jobs, and like some of you guys that resonate with what I'm saying, you feel this way. You feel like I ask people about them, but they never ask about me. I feel like you're some of the nicest people, and I've made a whole entire video on this topic talking about why lonely people are some of the nicest people, and you can watch that video here, but let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.